Okay, there was a new DNA study released that on our ancient lineage in Africa. What's fascinating is that basically they're saying that there was a bottleneck about 1 million years ago. So instead of a diffuse model in Africa, they've discovered there was two distinct populations 1.5 million years ago, and the main population had a bottleneck about 1 million years ago, and that appears to have been from the Ice Age starting, and so the ancient mixing contributed 10 times more of DNA than the mixing between our later Denisovan and Neanderthal mixings. And so immediately after these two populations split 1.5 million years ago, one of them had a severe bottleneck, shrank to a small size over a period. And then it slowly grew over 1 million years. So that bottleneck also led to a dispersal out of Africa at the same time, based on oh, this didn't update. That's weird. Check this out. My blog did not update. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I was confused. So they found these ancient hominins in China, and basically they're saying that the dating of that was very ambiguous. So they're saying it's more likely that that was due to this bottleneck about 0.9 million years ago that occurred in Africa, and so it led to a dispersal of hominins into China. And so there was some speculation that those then became the Denisovans in China, but that they're now calling the Homo longi the dragon man. But it's more likely that the Denisovans evolved from this split that then regrouped 300,000 years ago. So there was a split. It bottlenecked 1 million years ago. They left Africa as Homo erectus and went over all the way into China. But then 300,000 years ago in Africa, they rejoined, and those ancestors then they left Africa and became the Denisovans and Neanderthals. The Neanderthals in Europe and the Denisovans in Asia. And so they're saying that the Chinese skull morphology is actually from the Denisovans as this dragon man that they've traced back to 300,000 years ago now. So, but the thing is that it's still from this ancient split of humans or mixing again 300,000 years ago. And so that regrouping is 80% of modern human DNA that then became the Neanderthals and Denisovans and the Homo sapiens. So it's pretty fascinating. So the point here is that in China, it appears that the Denisovans had a larger impact as far as the morphology, what they're calling the dragon man. In China, they're saying that that's more like the morphology of the modern human skull in China, the dragon man skull that they've now traced to 300,000 years ago. It's possible that modern human morphologies are present as early as 300,000 years ago in Eastern Asia. So this is brand new news. And that so they acknowledge that the anatomically modern skull in human in East Asia is an unresolved issue. And that this newly discovered 300,000 year skull is the Chinese are arguing that that's actually the basis of the Chinese skull and not the one not the modern skull that left Africa 80,000 years ago. So it's pretty fascinating that they're basically claiming it's not from Homo erectus, but it's from the split in Africa that was the source of Denisovans and Neanderthals that happened, that so it remerged 300,000 years ago. So then it would have spread back into China. So I guess they're arguing that since this skull is 300,000 years ago, it actually could be Homo erectus in China and not the Denisovan. Let's take a look at this article again. All they have is a mandible. 16 individuals 300,000 years ago. When you put them all together, you get a nearly complete skull. Oh, interesting. It is possible to identify PreSapien species. It's just bizarre. A PreSapien species in China. So another study was in West Africa where they found an archaic ghost species, but it's only 13,000 years old. So this shows, and then you also have these discovery of the hobbit species in or was it Southeast Asia or whatever, Indonesia or something. So that was another Homo erectus species. But then they're saying, well, in China you had interbreeding with Denisovans on more than one occasion. Yeah, so that was the 25,000 years ago, was that the hobbit species is another Denisovan. species, I think. Not sure how they've grouped that one. But okay, so there was a severe bottleneck 0.9 million years ago, and that spread into China, all the way into China. So I guess it's debatable whether they're saying, because of this 300,000-year skull in China, they're saying it looks like the modern human skull in China. So that could be actually Homo erectus morphology to modern to Chinese. But it's more likely that Denisovans. But then again, the Denisovans were probably, mixing with the Homo erectus that were in China. So, yeah, so this puts a whole nother twist to human evolution, including New Guinea, Northern Australia. Okay, so basically they had this new study was released like yesterday that you have this split. So here you have in China, you have in Spain, you have like 2 million year old Homo erectus. But they're not quite sure about the dating of these. And then so this is this migration out of Africa by 1 million, just under 1 million years ago. And then what happened is in Africa that regrouped to create the modern Homo sapiens 300,000 years ago. But they're saying in China that would have actually mixed the Homo erectus and the Denisovans then would have mixed and then created the Chinese morphology. And you also have mixing in West Africa with some kind of Homo erectus that was just only like 12,000 years ago. And so then you get this Homo florensis, which was not that long ago. So yeah, so it's definitely making it more interesting about what it means to be a human, a modern human, because these species, they're not really different species, because you can still have mixing, reproduce. Like they're saying, like with Neanderthals, that it seems like a different species, but they just had to keep remixing and trying over and over. It took a few generations for the modern humans to kind of take over the Neanderthals. So something like 40% of the Neanderthal genome is in modern humans, not like each human, because each human in Europe has about, I don't know, like 3% Neanderthal. And then the Denisovan in Asia is probably about the same, like 3 or 4%. And in the Melanesians, I think it's up to maybe like 9% Denisovan. And in West Africa, you have they found some like 19% of archaic Homo erectus mixing, or they just call it an archaic ghost species. They don't know whether it's Homo erectus or Homo heidelbergensis or whatever. So it's one of those two. So you still have the main, like Khoisan and pygmy split that was about 200,000 years ago, 225,000 years ago, and that came out of this mixing from 300,000 years ago. That was again from a split that was 1.5 million years ago. So this older split went into Asia just under 1 million years ago, right here. So they're basically saying that then merged with the Denisovans and then created the Dragon Man in China, that they're saying that that's probably the basis for the Chinese morphology difference. But it's still mainly the modern humans, It's just that there's this mixture going on all the way back to 1.5 million years ago that left Africa a million years ago. So you're getting an older mixture. Oh, there you go.